Welcome back to the world of rare coins, where every dollar could be worth a fortune. Today we're diving into the legendary, a coin full of history, mystery, and hidden value. From rare mint errors to coins worth thousands, you never know what treasure you might already have in your pocket. Stay tuned, because your next coin could change everything. Our first coin. The 1974 Eisenhower dollar with no mint mark was produced in Philadelphia, which means it doesn't carry the D for Denver or S for San Francisco. Millions of these coins were minted, making them seem very common. In circulated condition, most of them are only worth a few dollars at best. But every once in a while, a coin appears that breaks all expectations. Collectors have long been fascinated by error coins and unusual variations. These are coins that, for one reason or another, were not struck exactly the way they were supposed to be. It could be a slight misalignment in the die, a variation in metal composition, or even a faint doubling in the design that is barely visible to the naked eye. These tiny differences are what can transform an ordinary coin into a collector's dream. In the case of this particular 1974 Eisenhower dollar, experts believe that its extreme value comes from a rare and unique combination of factors. Some have pointed to subtle doubling in the lettering, especially around the date and the word Liberty. Others have noticed unusual surface textures that suggest the coin may have been struck under slightly irregular conditions at the mint. These details are easy to miss, especially on a coin that has been circulating for years. What makes this story even more fascinating is the condition of the coin. It's not perfect. In fact, it shows clear signs of wear, scratches across the surface, softened edges, and a general loss of sharpness in the design. Normally, this would lower the value of a coin. But in rare cases like this, the condition tells part of the story. It proves that the coin was actually released into circulation and used in everyday transactions, rather than being preserved from the start. Now imagine this coin appearing at an auction. At first, it might not attract much attention, but as experts examine it more closely and recognize its rare characteristics, interest begins to grow. Collectors from around the world start to take notice. Bidding begins, slowly at first, then faster and more intense as the price climbs higher and higher. Before you know it, the coin that once sat unnoticed in someone's pocket is being sold for an astonishing $160,000. It sounds unbelievable, but this is exactly what makes coin collecting so exciting. The idea that something so small and seemingly insignificant could hold such incredible value is what keeps collectors searching every day. It's not just about money. It's about discovery, history, and the thrill of finding something rare. But it's important to keep a clear perspective. Not every 1974 Eisenhower dollar is worth a fortune. In fact, the vast majority are still very common and carry only modest value. The difference lies in the details, the tiny, almost invisible features that only trained eyes can recognize. That's why professional grading and authentication are so important in the world of rare coins. Without expert verification, it's impossible to confirm whether a coin truly has the qualities that make it valuable. Still, stories like this serve as a powerful reminder to never ignore the coins you come across. That old jar of change sitting in your home could hold something special. Even a worn, scratched coin that looks like it's seen better days might have a hidden story waiting to be discovered. So the next time you find a large dollar coin, especially one from the 1970s, take a closer look. Pay attention to the details, the texture, and anything that seems unusual. Because in the world of coin collecting, the smallest difference can make the biggest impact. This next coin, 1972D mint mark Eisenhower dollar, that has shocked collectors with a jaw-dropping auction value reaching as high as $170,000, even in circulated condition. Now imagine holding this coin in your hand. It doesn't shine like a proof coin. It doesn't look perfect. Instead, you see small scratches across the surface, slightly faded details, and that dull metallic tone that comes from years of use. To most people, this would seem like just another old coin, something you might toss aside without a second thought. But hidden inside this ordinary appearance is a story that has completely changed how collectors look at circulated coins. Back in 1972, the United States Mint produced millions of Eisenhower dollars at the Denver Mint, which is identified by the small D mint mark on the coin. These coins were created for everyday use, meaning they were meant to circulate widely. Because of this, most 1972D Eisenhower dollars you find today are extremely common and only worth a few dollars at best. But every now and then, something unusual happens during the minting process, and that's where the magic begins. This particular coin is believed to carry rare minting characteristics that set it apart from the millions of others. Some collectors have pointed to slight doubling in the design, especially around the lettering and the date. Others have noticed unusual strike details, where certain parts of the coin appear sharper or slightly different compared to standard examples. These differences are not always easy to see, especially on a coin that has been circulated and shows wear. But to trained collectors, these tiny details can mean everything. What makes this even more fascinating is the condition of the coin. It's not a perfect, untouched piece locked away for decades. Instead, it has clearly been used in everyday transactions. The scratches and wear actually tell a story, a journey through time. Each mark represents a moment when the coin changed hands, moving from one person to another, possibly across cities or even states. And yet, despite all that wear, its rare features remained intact. Now, picture this coin entering the auction scene. At first, it might not attract much attention. After all, collectors often look for coins in pristine condition. But once experts begin to examine it closely, everything changes. The subtle details start to reveal themselves, and suddenly, this once overlooked coin becomes something extraordinary. Word spreads quickly among serious collectors. Interest begins to grow. Bidding starts, and what was once a simple coin begins to rise in value. The competition becomes intense as collectors recognize the rarity of what they're seeing. Each bid pushes the price higher, creating excitement and tension in the room. And then, in a moment that surprises everyone, the final bid reaches an incredible $170,000. It's almost unbelievable to think that a scratched, circulated coin could reach such a value. But this is what makes coin collecting so exciting. It's not always about perfection. Sometimes it's about uniqueness, rarity, and the story behind the coin. A small variation, a tiny error, or an unusual feature can completely transform a coin's worth. However, it's important to understand that not every 1972D Eisenhower dollar is valuable. In fact, most of them are still very common and worth only a small amount. The key difference lies in those rare characteristics that only a few coins possess. That's why professional grading and authentication are so important. Without expert verification, it's impossible to confirm whether a coin truly has the qualities that make it valuable. Still, stories like this inspire collectors all over the world. They remind us that hidden treasures can exist in the most unexpected places. That old coin sitting in your drawer, your pocket, or even your wallet could be more than just spare change. It could be a piece of history waiting to be discovered. So next time you come across a large dollar coin, don't ignore it. Take a closer look. Examine the details. Pay attention to anything unusual, no matter how small it may seem. Because in the world of rare coins, even the tiniest difference can mean the biggest reward. This last coin, the 1978D mint mark Eisenhower dollar, that has captured serious attention in the collector world, with claims of reaching an incredible value of up to $160,000 in the right auction setting. Now picture this moment. You're sorting through old coins, maybe something you've saved for years or found in a forgotten drawer. Among them, you notice a large, heavy dollar coin with the date 1978 and a small D mint mark. It looks used, maybe even a bit rough. There are visible scratches across the surface. The details seem slightly faded, and the shine is long gone. To most people, this is just another old coin. But to a collector with a sharp eye, this could be something far more exciting. The 1978 Eisenhower dollar is particularly interesting because it marks the final year of this iconic coin series. Produced in large numbers at the Denver Mint, these coins were intended for circulation, meaning they were used in everyday transactions across the country. Because of this, many examples you'll find today show signs of wear, just like the one we're talking about. And in most cases, they are only worth a few dollars above face value. But every once in a while, a coin appears that breaks the rules. Something about it is different. Something doesn't quite match what collectors expect to see. And that's where things start to get interesting. In the case of this 1978D Eisenhower dollar, collectors have pointed to subtle but important differences that may explain its incredible value. Some believe the coin shows signs of a rare die variation, where the tool used to strike the coin had slight imperfections or misalignments. This can create small but noticeable differences in the design, such as unusual lettering shapes, faint doubling, or unexpected sharpness in certain areas. Others have suggested that the coin may have been struck under unique conditions, possibly involving slight variations in pressure or alignment during the minting process. These kinds of anomalies are extremely difficult to detect without careful examination, especially on a coin that has been circulated and shows visible wear. And that's what makes this story so surprising. This is not a perfect coin. It's not locked away in a protective case untouched by time. Instead, it has lived a real life. It has been exchanged, handled, and used like any other coin. The scratches and marks on its surface are proof of that journey. Yet somehow, despite all that wear, it still holds features that make it incredibly rare. Now imagine this coin being presented at an auction. At first, it might not stand out. Many collectors might overlook it because of its condition. But once experts begin to examine it closely, everything changes. Those small differences, those tiny details, start to reveal themselves. And suddenly, this ordinary-looking coin becomes the center of attention. Bidding begins, slowly but steadily. As more collectors recognize the coin's uniqueness, the competition grows stronger. The price starts to climb, surprising everyone watching. What seemed like a simple coin just moments ago is now the focus of intense interest. And then, in a dramatic finish, the final bid reaches an astonishing $160,000. It's hard to believe, but stories like this are what keep the world of coin collecting alive and exciting. They remind us that value isn't always obvious. Sometimes, the most valuable things are hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to notice what others have missed. Of course, it's important to stay realistic. Not every 1978D Eisenhower dollar is worth a fortune. In fact, most of them are still very common and carry only a small premium. The difference lies in those rare and unusual characteristics that only a few coins possess. That's why professional grading and authentication are essential when it comes to determining true value. Still, the possibility is always there, and that's what makes it so exciting. The idea that a coin you already own could turn out to be something special is enough to make anyone take a closer look. So the next time you come across a large dollar coin from the 1970s, don't ignore it. Look carefully at the details. Notice the texture, the lettering, and anything that seems out of place. Because in the world of rare coins, even the smallest detail can make the biggest difference.